To get started, we want to create a file called index.html. This is the main file of our HTML website. Now, I would highly recommend to use a code editor like Visual Studio Code. I'm using this, or you can also use something else like CodePen in the web, or vscode in the web, or Visual Studio. So then we want to create the main content of the file, so the header and the body and the metadata. Therefore, we go on and write HTML 5 in Visual Studio Code. So, this will give us a basic HTML document. It doesn't contain anything but the title. I'll explain everything in detail now. This line shows which HTML version we're using. So, HTML in this case, basically. Then this initiates an HTML document. The lang_e attribute specifies the language we are writing it in. Then method charset UTF-8. This specifies the charset. So some languages may have special characters like the Ö or the Ä in German, or other special characters. When you use UTF-8, your browser will be able to display them. Otherwise, it will be displayed as a question mark in a rectangle. Now, the meta name viewport content with device with initial scale 1.0. This is important if you want that your website also works perfectly on a mobile device. Otherwise, the website will be displayed very small and everything will be crashed. Using this line, the sizes will be adapted and line breaks will also work. The title document here specifies the title that will be displayed in the tab in a browser. So when we write document, the title will be document. We will call it our website. So that's the whole heading for now. Then we got the body and the closing body. During these or between them, we'll write our main content. This will be, for example, a title. I'll explain the most common HTML tags now. The first one is the comment. It's important because you want to make comments. So it's not really a tag because it won't be displayed in the browser, but it's important to know. So now the real tags. Very important is BR. This creates a line break. So this. Right. Now, what about real styled content? So we want to create a heading. Therefore, we'll say H1, and this gotta be closed again. So tags in HTML gotta be opened and closed. In between these tags, we'll write our content. For example, heading. After this, we can create another heading or create new content. But there are more headings. You can do this up to H6. So H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So when we are done with the headings, we can go on and say we want to make a paragraph. This tag is fairly easy to make. We just write P in brackets and close it again. Here we write content or something we want to display in here. So, for example, the very famous Lorem Ipsum Dolor said, and so on. Right. It will all be justified just like in a normal paragraph. If we want to make something bold or italic or underlined, we use the text B and closing B for bold. Bold. Italic, also I, italic. I'm sorry. And closing I. U for underlined. and closing view again. This will style the text. So like this. When we display something now, we can say h1 heading. So like up here. Then we can say p. This is our website, like this. Then we can say we want to make website bold. So Visual Studio Code will always auto-generate the closing tag again. We can now mark it and move it up here, or we can remove it and write it ourselves here. Then we want that is italic. So we are going to do it just like this. And our should be underlined. Now we want to make a new line. So when we do just this won't work. It will be still one line. We can do this in our code to make it more visible for us when we're writing the code. But we gotta make a BR tag. This will create a new line. Like we can write, let's write some more content. And this does all these tags for us. Now we should save the file and we can go on and open it in our web browser. So I opened the application, I opened Chrome, and on the website we can see that here's our heading, here's our text, and the next line. So, but it's all plain text. So we just have heading, and it's all in serif text, and it's all white in the background, and maybe we want to make it more beautiful. So let's go back to our code editor, Visual Studio Code. And right, just before I tell you about the styling, I just want to introduce some more tags that might be important and that they are important also for styling. So we want to make a link maybe. So we say H, A, this is just an A, and then we say href, and in the href, we'll specify the location we want to go to. So this might be a hashtag for a certain part of a website. So let's say text, hashtag text, and then we gotta say ID equals text, and here this attribute, this will point to this text. So if you would have multiple pages and we click a link with the hashtag text, this would go right here to our text. And we can also say we want to specify a website. This might be example.com. Sorry, example.com. We close it, and now we write a closing tag. And here we'll have to say what do we want to display. So let's say website. Now we gotta copy this, or we can directly write it here, make a new line, and we paste it like this. And then we go back to our code editor, or we display it in Chrome, and then we got a new link. And this goes to example.com, and now we can go back. Right. So, and as you can see, the link turned from the blue from before to a purple. So there are colors in HTML. Right. I'll go back to the code editor, to Visual Studio Code. Right. And now we have this. So we want to style it a little bit. So we got to edit something in the heading. So we go on and say style. This is a style tag. It allows us to insert CSS. CSS is the abbreviation for cascading style sheet or cascaded style sheet. CSS allows us to style the website with other fonts, with backgrounds, with colors. There are lots of attributes. So we want to create the body selector. So we select body by writing body. That's the tag we want to style. And now we say background color. And we set it to white. I made a spelling mistake. So this is background color and it's white. So when we go back to Pro, we'll see it didn't change. But we can, for example, say we want to turn it red. So we write red in the code editor and save it. And we go back to Chrome, where we have our website, and then we reload it. And as you can see here, it turned red. So that's better, but it still looks terrible. I'd recommend to set it to black and set the foreground color to white. It might be a little bit confusing, but instead of writing foreground color, we gotta write color double dash and then say white. So we have a black background and a white text, so foreground. So let's get back to the code, reload, and now it's inverted a little, so it looks like this. Now we want to set the font to something else. That's another important attribute. It's called font family. And very easy is sans serif. It's a attribute or value that's defined by default. It says we want a sans serif font. Most browsers have one already selected. So if we go back to Chrome now and reload the page, we'll see it turned to this font. We can also just write a font name in here. So for example, Consolas. And when we reload the page, so I wrote Consolas, and when we reload the page, it turns to this. And right, but now there's a problem. What if a browser doesn't understand a certain font or doesn't have it installed? So we can say comma and add another font. So in our case, I just wrote sans serif. So let's get back to the website, and actually it still works because my computer understands Consolas as a font. But if I say Consolas with a lot of random characters, the font name is invalid. And if I go here, it didn't understand the font, but it rolled back to the Consolas, so that it still works. Right. So, I'm sorry, I misclicked. Give me a second. So when we are resume, we were able to write another font. So I'll set it back to Consolas, and now we have font family Consolas sans serif. There are a lot more attributes in cascading style sheet, so that's basic, and we can do a lot of more things. For example, we can say H1. So this will just select the H1 tag here, where we wrote heading. And now we can say we want to give it another text color. So we say color, double dash, and then we write a color name. There are a lot of predefined colors in CSS, for example, Dodger blue. So when we have Dodger blue, and we go back to our browser and reload the website, we'll get a blue heading text. So, but this still has the problem that website link is purple, and we don't want that. So we go back to our code editor and say A for link, so the A tag. And now we set it to darker blue, the color. So this will change the color when it is clicked or when it is not clicked. So like this. But some older browsers will say, yes, you specified the color if it wasn't clicked yet, but you gotta, when you click it, it will turn purple again. So we want to say A after and A before and A hover, or A hover. So this will say that in any case, in any state of the link, it will be this color. So I click it, it didn't change. I go back, it still is in this color. That's boring. We want to add an effect probably. So this could be like when you hover it, it turns, let's say, white again. So I say A double hover, and now we say color white. This gives us the ability to add effects like, for example, as you can see now, I reload the site, and when I hover the link, it turns white. When I click it, it's blue again, and when I leave the website and go back, it's still blue, but when I hover, it gets white. So there are even more attributes. But that's it for this video, and in the next video I'll go more in detail with CSS. For example, you can also style buttons, you can make input fields styled, you can create a lot of more effects. The next video will be all about CSS, and then I'll make a video about forms. There are a lot more things in HTML. This was almost just the basic. Right. Goodbye, and leave a like if you considered this video as helpful, and please subscribe so you won't miss the future videos. And if you have got any other feedback, please write it in the comments. Goodbye.